So we've just seen the why we need to talk about 21st century skills in our classrooms and throughout the district. But what we need to really understand is that 21st century skills is not a concept that we have to address for tomorrow's students or tomorrow's workforce. We have students graduating in Lamar CISD and around the state and around the country even that are going right into the workforce right now. So we have to be preparing all those students for those skills today. So we do that by addressing 6 learning dimensions out of 21st century learning design, and you can see those 6 right here. The first one we're going to look at is called knowledge construction. Knowledge construction is not just acquiring knowledge, but actually applying and synthesizing that information and making content knowledge useful. We have to go beyond just acquiring and get into the higher level of blooms to make it useful for students. The next dimension we're going to talk about is collaboration, which we often think about as teachers as just teamwork. But teamwork is a small piece of collaboration. Collaboration is much more meaningful, and it means that our students have to do specific things and be organized in certain ways to have collaboration mean anything besides basic teamwork. The third learning dimension we're going to look at is very important for us as a SITS team, which is the information and communications technology. But the key part here is for learning. We often skip that last part. This is not about just using technology, but using it for a purpose, using it to accomplish things beyond what we can without technology and giving students an in-depth and meaningful experience. The next learning dimension is real-world problem solving and innovation. Now there are 3 main parts to this dimension, and it makes it much more complex to deal with in some situations. The first part is real world. This has to go beyond just basic theory in the classroom, but to application outside of the 4 walls. It deals with problem solving, which doesn't have to be what we think of as just a problem and solution, but designing a process counts. And finally, innovation, which is the big piece that we often fall short on. Innovation here is actually implementation. Are we taking a real-world problem, identifying and creating a solution, and then making it happen? If we're not making it happen, we're not making this meaningful. The 5th learning dimension here is self-regulation, and you can think of this as basic time management and project management. Having students understand that a project is a big picture that's really made up of smaller chunks along the way is really what we're after here. And then finally, skilled communication is a learning dimension that we don't focus on a whole lot, but it's about making sure we're getting students to communicate effectively and appropriately based on the audience that they're trying to target. We often ask students to talk to their peers or to their teachers, but we don't often ask them to talk to a group of professionals, to a school board, or to a community organization. This week during Interact, we're going to focus solely on 2 specific learning dimensions because we believe they're the foundation for everything we do as a SITS team and in the classroom here in Lamar CISD. And those 2 are knowledge construction and use of information and communications technology for learning.